Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and we are bringing you Round 4, Game 1 of our Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition Escalation campaign, which we are calling the Isle of Valgonda. This week's scenario is called the Monster Mash. For this scenario, we are getting 800 points, and I'm using my Empire Force. Here's a picture of it right here. Leading it, we have Captain Kurgi. Captain Kurgi is a captain of the Empire. He has full plate armor, a shield, a barded warhorse, and in the first scenario, he picked himself up a Sword of Might. Off to the right, we have Jeremacroth. Jeremacroth is a warrior priest. He has heavy armor. We've upgraded him with an enchanted shield for this round. He is also carrying the Sword of Battle, which he got in that first scenario. To the left, we have the Ruddy Reavers. They've grown a little bit from the last round. We're up to 22 swordsmen with full command, and we've given them a detachment of 5 archers. I'm calling those guys the Grey Hill Poachers. Off on the other side, we have 5 Inner Circle Knights with full command. Those are the Riding Roughshods. And we have the Angry Mob. Those are 20 free company with full command now. Also for this round, we are required to bring a monster up to 250 points from either our army book or the Storm of Magic book. So the Empire Army book doesn't really have an unridden monster that you can just field on its own without a character or anything like that. I went through the Storm of Magic book, and most of the Empire monsters that you can bring are on the cheap side. You can get close to 250 points with all the upgrades, but they don't get really good. They're combat monsters generally with a low number of wounds, no real defense, no armor, no regen or anything like that, and they just aren't very inspiring. That said, I didn't really want to get anything too chaotic. I didn't want to get anything that seemed too weird to have an Empire force with, so I didn't want a Chimera or a Manticore or anything like that. So finally I settled on this guy, a Lamazu, sometimes seen in the old Chaos Dwarf army list. I painted this guy up a long time ago for one of our earlier campaigns, but now's a good time to bring him out. He is kind of chaotic. He's sort of this monster that's associated with the god of the Chaos Dwarfs, Hashut, but it does seem like kind of an intelligent monster. It's a spellcaster. I've upgraded him to a level 2 fire mage. That's not going to matter for this game right now, but it looks like the kind of monster that isn't outwardly psychotic and that maybe a wizard can bargain with or sort of something like that, and he might actually end up in an Empire force without too much trouble. Anyway, that's what we're going with. As I said, to get him up to 250 points, I did have to give him the level 2 upgrade. I also gave him the Sorceress Miasma, which is a strength 4 breath weapon, and the Mace Tail, which gives him an extra attack at +1 strength. He's an interesting monster. He flies, he's a monster, he's toughness 5 and strength 5, but with a real low attack characteristic, so only 2 attacks +1 for the Mace Tail, and low wounds, so he's only got 4 wounds. He has magic resistance 3, so that's a 4+ ward save against any spells, but otherwise no scaly skin, no regen, no ward save, nothing like that. He can thunderstomp, but really he's not much of a combat creature. But that's okay for right now because he's not really part of my army. We'll get into that in a little bit. For the first round, we are facing the Demons of Chaos again. The Demons of Chaos are led by a Herald of Slaanesh with the Greater Locus of Swiftness, which gives the Herald and any unit that it is with the Always Strikes First special rule. The Herald also has the Sword of Might, which it picked up in the first round. It is being accompanied by 20 Demonettes with full command and the Banner of Swiftness for +1 movement. It's also being accompanied by 3 Fiends of Slaanesh and 3 Blood Crushers of Khorne, so Slaanesh and Khorne are getting along today. And my opponent has taken a Hydra. It's a little different than the one in the Dark Elf book, the one in the Storm of Magic book, and it has been given the Envenomed Fangs special rule, which gives it an extra attack with poison. So here's the battlefield all set up. We are on a 4x4 table as always. We've got a normal set of walls over in my deployment zone. We've got a normal hill up front. We have a mysterious forest in the upper right, and we have a charnel pit. The charnel pit gives units nearby -1 leadership, so I didn't want that messing with my force, so I stuck that in the corner where you see it there. You see my force really spread out, so the knights are over on the left ready to charge out from behind that hill. The swordsmen and their detachment of archers are in the center. Jerem, the warrior priest, is in with the swordsmen. My general, my captain, he is in with the knights. And then we have the cannon in the far right-hand corner, and it is being protected by my free company. My opponent is also really spread out. You can see the Fiends over on the left, the Blood Crushers in the center, and the Herald with the Demonettes sort of center right. And so the deal with this scenario is that after everyone has finished deploying, we take turns setting up our monster. These monsters are not part of our armies. They are basically independent creatures that can wander around and fight on their own. So we take turns placing them, and we have to set it up so their base touches the center line. So I set my Lamazou up right directly across from my knights, facing towards the demons, and he set up his Hydra kind of in the same way, right across from his demonettes and his herald. So after both players take a turn, there is a monster turn. The monsters roll a d6. On a 4+, they charge the closest unit. They don't need to be able to see them. They just go towards the unit that's closest to them. On a 1 through 3, they just move 2d6 inches in a random direction. The monsters never charge each other, by the way. Also, my Lamazou will never cast spells, and it will use its breath weapon at the earliest possible opportunity. I guess the Hydra also has a breath weapon, so yeah, same goes for the Hydra. As an incentive to go fight the monsters, every time we cause an unsaved wounds to one of these guys, we get a prestige point, which is a special point we get to spend on troops and magic items for the big multiplayer scenario at the end of the game. Also, if we take the last wound away from these monsters, then we get the victory points for them. So that's a potential of nearly 500 victory points on the table, so that can be a pretty big swing. So as you can see, both me and my opponent have set it up so that we can go and defeat our monsters as quickly as possible. We've both deployed our own monsters, as close to our most powerful unit as we can and facing the wrong direction. The idea being, in the first turn, we're going to charge in and we're going to kill him. So let's go on, see who gets the first turn. In this case, it is the demon player. So the forces of chaos are not going to waste any time. They're going to charge straight into these monsters. Over on the right, the herald and the big unit of demonettes have charged the flank of the Hydra. So they're not charging the rear because this way they actually get more attacks, so that should be pretty good. And over on the left, the Fiends of Slaanesh go and charge into my Lamazou. I didn't take a picture of this, but the Blood Crushers just kind of make a medium advance in the center of the table. And in the Reign of Chaos table, my opponent rolls a double 6. But again, my opponent's being a gentleman, and he didn't bring any additional units to deploy on the table. Normally, he would take a core unit and plop it down on the battlefield somewhere just as free demons that suddenly spring out of the warp. But you're supposed to have the models available. He didn't bring any extra models, so he declined to drop any guys down there, which is extremely sporting of him. So with no shooting, we go on to the hand-to-hand combat phase, and we go to the Demonettes versus the Hydra combat, and the Demonettes don't roll fantastically, actually. They only cause 2 wounds. Again, that Herald has like 4 weapon skill, huge attacks at strength 5 with rerolls because of always strikes first. But anyway, only manages to plant 2 wounds on the Hydra. It does have regen, so I guess that's not too unreasonable. The Hydra goes and it attacks with all its attacks, uses its breath weapon, uses its stomps, and it manages to finish off 5 of the Demonettes. When all is said and done, the Demonettes have won the combat, though only by a little bit. Only losing by the musician that the Demonettes have. So it goes and actually passes its 5 or less break test, and so this combat is going to continue for another round. Now we go on over to the left. The Fiends manage to put 1 wound on the Lamazou, but then in return it causes a couple wounds and then just goes crazy with that sorceress breath of it and wipes out all of the Fiends, or at least causes enough damage to them that they subsequently fail their instability rolls and all disappear. So my opponent gets 1 prestige point for the wound that it put on the Lamazou, but otherwise he lost, 1 of 4 units that he has total, so that's a pretty good turn for me. Which actually takes me to my turn, and so sensing an opportunity, my riding roughshods with the captain go and charge into the rear of the Lamazou, or see if we can't do a little bit better than the Fiends did. The Free Company more or less stay where they are, the cannon stays where it is, and I'm going to go and set up a trap for the Blood Crushers. So the archers march forward up towards the Blood Crushers. Currently they can't charge the knights, and I am blocking their advance to the swordsmen. So if the Blood Crushers want to come in, they're going to come into the front of the archers. I'm going to let them kill those guys, and either they can reform and stand there and receive a charge from my swordsmen in the next round, which isn't great for the Blood Crushers, or they can overrun and run right in front of my swordsmen and get flank charged. So hopefully my opponent is going to have to think a bit about what to do about that situation, but I'm feeling like that's not bad for me. In the magic phase, my swordsman cast some prayers. I don't remember which one they are. It's not going to matter anytime soon, so we'll just move on. And to the shooting phase. The archers have marched, so they don't get to shoot, but I am going to go and fire with the cannon. Normally when people shoot the cannon, they say 10 from the back of the thing that they're trying to shoot. Now what I would like to shoot is the Hydra, but I don't go 10 from the back of that. I only go 8 inches back. The idea being that I don't want to undershoot, not hit anything, but if I overshoot, I do go and at least clip some of those Demonettes. Unfortunately, that's exactly what I do. I overshoot the Hydra, the cannonball lands in the Demonettes. I blow up 2 of them. That's not bad, but obviously I would have much rather have run through all of them or caused some wounds on the Hydra itself, deny my opponents some prestige points, and maybe even get myself a whole bunch of victory points. But either way, cannon didn't blow up and it caused some casualties on the opposing side, so I can't complain. In the hand-to-hand combat phase, predictably, my knights and the general go and fail their fear test. So now they're only hitting on 5s or 6s, and my captain gets to strike first with his 3 strength 5 attacks, and he blows it. He doesn't cause any wounds. Fortunately, my knights step up a little bit, and luckily we managed to do exactly 3 wounds, which is enough to kill off the Lamazu, get myself a bunch of victory points, get myself 3 prestige points, and we are going to reform those knights towards the Blood Crushers, and so now that's really going to put a lot of pressure on that unit there. So now both players have taken a turn, and now it's the monster turn. The Hydra is in combat with the Demonettes, so it doesn't have anything to do other than go and eat Demonettes. So things have slowed down a little bit. It manages to smash 2 of the Demonettes and take 1 wound in return. Unfortunately, that does mean that the Hydra has lost the combat by 1 and it can't get lucky twice in a row. It fails that break test and it runs away. Fortunately, it does get away. So you can see we have the Hydra kind of sandwiched in between the Demonettes and my free company. It's probably not thrilled with how this day is going. So we are back to the demon turn, and right off the bat the Demonettes go and declare a charge against the Hydra. The Hydra has to flee, so if the Hydra runs off the board, the Demons of Chaos player is going to get the victory points for killing off the Hydra. Now, it does have to run through both my free company and my cannon in order to do that, and it has to take dangerous terrain tests, so there's this outside chance that it's going to take some wounds on its way off the table. And maybe if it takes 2 wounds, it'll even go and die, and I get the victory points. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. The Hydra just runs through both of my units. It goes off the table. Demons get the victory points. The Demonettes successfully redirect and charge into my free company. And here's a little boneheaded thing that I'd realized earlier that I had done, but this is only turn 2, so I didn't have time to fix it. I sent those free company over there to protect the cannon. The dumb thing that I did was I put them directly in front of the cannon, which means that if anything charges into the free company and kills all them, they can just overrun straight into my cannon and kill that, without too much trouble, just one turn after the other. So oops, oops, oops. If I had had a turn, I could have done a swift reform or something like that to get them out of that arc, but I didn't. Those demons were just on me too fast, and so now I kind of messed that up. Again, the very camera-shy Blood Crushers just pivot to keep both the Knights and the Swordsmen and the Archers in their front arc. And in the Magic phase, the Reign of Chaos table, my opponent rolls another double 6. So that's 2 double 6s in a row. If we were playing this under the normal rules, or if my opponent had, for whatever reason, brought a bunch of spare demons, he would have had 2 whole units show up in the beginning of the game. He would have increased his army by 33%, something like that. And again, I've said this before, but that is why the Reign of Chaos table is the worst rule in the game. Can you imagine playing a game and 2 rounds in, suddenly your opponent's core selections double? But that doesn't happen, thanks to my opponent, and we keep going. So, in the hand-to-hand combat phase, it looks like my poor farmers have gone and failed their fear test. I do challenge with the Sergeant of the Free Company, and it looks like his Demonette champion accepts that. She causes the maximum 3 wounds to that guy, and 8 more free company also get chopped down. Unfortunately, I only managed to cause 1 wound back, which means that I am not steadfast. If I had managed to kill 2 of those toughness 3 demons, that would have been different, but it didn't quite work out. So, I need double 1s to stay. I do not get it. The free company run away. They are run down by the Demonettes, and they charge towards the cannon, but they are just a little bit shy. So they are not in combat with that cannon right now. They are just like an inch away from that gun. We'll see how those Demonettes like grape shot. And here we are, we're back to my turn, and so 9 games into this campaign, and the Knights have finally charged something. I declare a charge with the Knights and the Captain into the Blood Crushers. I successfully get it, so hooray, the Knights have actually done what they're supposed to. I guess technically they charged the Lamazu earlier, but that really wasn't an opponent's unit. So now I've actually charged an opponent's unit, and I feel really good about that. I didn't charge with the archers or the swordsmen. It would have kind of been a mess. I thought I'd just be giving up more combat resolution than I'd be gaining. We'll see if the knights can handle it on their own. Though obviously their track record for passing leadership tests is not great. So with an amount of confidence that I do not necessarily share, the swordsman and the warrior priest and the archers all about face over to the right, and they are going to go help out against the demonettes. If this night combat goes badly, I am in a really bad state because those blood crushers are either going to reform or end up somewhere I don't want to and then just plow into the flank of the archers or the swordsmen, and it's going to be terrible. But so I'm putting a lot of faith into these knights. Let's see if it is rewarded. Again, I go and cast some prayers. It doesn't matter. More substantially, the cannon goes and fires grape shot into the demonettes and does nothing. Either I roll a really small number of hits and just don't end up rolling any hits, or he makes his ward save, or I just go and misfire. Either way, yeah, wow, they had a great opportunity and they kind of blew it. So we move on to the hand-to-hand combat phase. This is a little bit risky because those bloodletters on the tops of those juggernauts, they do have killing blows, so I do have some risk to my captain himself, and of course it goes straight through the armor if they get that. I do lose 2 of my knights. My captain comes out all right. I do pass my fear test, which is amazing, and the knights do pretty well, so I managed to cause a total of 4 wounds on the blood crushers. The Blood Crushers are an interesting unit. They are actually pretty soft defensively. Their toughness 4, 3 wounds, 4-up armor save, just less than I would expect, and of course a 5-up ward. I mean, they're not bad, but for monstrous cavalry, they're not super tanky. They only have 1 attack at strength 5 from the Bloodletter on top, and then 3 strength 5 attacks from the Blood Crushers down below. For a demonic unit, they're very reasonable. Anyway, I end up winning the combat by 4, and so it's down to a very shaky instability test from the Blood Crushers, which they bomb, and the rest of them pop, and the Knights reform, and I'm in a good position. So, back to the demonic turn. The demons are down to just the demonettes and the herald. They've got nothing better to do with their time than to go and take that cannon and turn it into tiny little cannon bits. So they charge in there. Nothing too destructive happens in the Reign of Chaos table. We go on to the hand-to-hand combat phase, and yeah, no more cannon. They just ripped it to shreds, gun, crew, everything, and they reform towards the remainder of my forces. So here we are, bottom of 3, and back to the Empire turn. At this point, I am in a good position. I have got more victory points right now, so I am winning. So I could just back off, and the likelihood that these demonettes go and kill either of my remaining 2 units is low. Even if they do get them, I think the swordsman can handle them, and there's no reason why the knights would ever get caught. So I could just avoid these guys. I don't do that, and it's not because I am a good player and a sporting person and all that kind of thing, where I'm playing in character. No, it's not that reason. It's because of the Reign of Chaos table. I can never be sure when all of a sudden I'm not going to suddenly lose one of my support units. Like the Knights, they just disappear because Slaanesh decides that they do. Or my archers all die, or a big thing goes and bombs my swordsmen and panics them off the table. So because I have a slight advantage on victory points, there's just always this case that the Reign of Chaos table is just going to mess that up, and so I just can't sit back like I probably would rather do. So what I try and do is I try to advance cautiously towards these demonettes. I'm going to try and maneuver myself so I get into a good position. Hopefully I can, I can redirect with the archers in a later round. I can tempt them into a charge that they're not going to make, and then flank with the knights, that kind of thing. So Captain Kirgy goes and leaves the vulnerable knight unit. We're going to stack everybody into the swordsman, make that as protected as humanly possible. The knights flank off to the left, the archers and the swordsmen creep up a little bit, and we're just going to try and position ourselves to trap this very dangerous unit. I cast some prayers, I shoot some arrows, nothing really comes of it. We move on to the demon turn. So the demon player is in a little bit of a pickle. He knows that he's down on victory points, but he also knows that charging into the swordsman is probably a bad idea and he's going to lose the rest of it, especially since it's still kind of a long charge right now. So he's actually thinking the same thing I am. If he just stands there and hopes for a good result from the Reign of Chaos table, he might still get a victory. So that's what he does. He just kind of pivots a little bit, tries to make sure those knights don't easily outflank him, and we go on to the magic phase, and nothing really happens. Back to my turn, we're still kind of sneaking around, still kind of closing in. The archers are actually going to go and kill one of the demonettes with their bowfire, which is nice. Now they're down a rank. Prayers cast, doesn't matter, on to the demon turn. So this is round 5. The demon player has 2 more magic phases to make something happen. The demonettes themselves just shuffle again a little bit, trying to keep both of those units in its front arc of sight. And that's it. We go on to the magic phase. And again, the gods of chaos are just asleep at the wheel and nothing really happens. So my round 5, and I'm starting to think that I should have been a lot braver with this whole thing. I should have just forced the issue, run those swordsmen up as fast as I can, but I'm still thinking that the pressure is going to be on for the demon player to do something. I'm still shuffling my knights over, trying to get into a flank position, but I do present the archers as a charge for the demonettes. Now, it's a very doable charge, so the idea being the demonettes are going to charge in, the archers are either going to flee or they're going to hold that charge. They go crashing into the swordsmen, or the swordsmen go crashing into them, knights come into the flanks, and I win that way. Victory Empire, we go home heroes. I'm still a little far away to make a good charge in my turn, but at the very, I do have the last round of the game, so I don't really lose anything by declaring a charge and failing. With the archers in the way, it makes it really complicated, but, we'll see what happens. I do give the demonettes a double 6 charge on the knights. I just can't really make my wheel around to where I want to be without coming close enough to give them that. I cast some prayers, the archers have marched in the movement phase so they don't get to shoot, and we go on to the last demon turn. So the demons have lost confidence in the gods to sort this problem out for them. So the demon player knows that he has to charge, but he doesn't like the odds of charging into the swordsman. He doesn't think that he's going to win that combat. If I flee, then, he doesn't get the points regardless. So really the only path to victory that the demonic player can see is by declaring a double 6 charge into the knights. And so he does that. I feel great. You fail that charge, your flank is going to be pointed towards my most powerful unit. I'm going to charge in and destroy you, maybe throw the knights into the front just to be sure. But guess what? You hear battle reports, you hear the old podcasts about Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition. The people say never give your opponent a double 6 charge because you can never be sure when they're going to make it. Well, I've never gotten bit by that before, to my knowledge, but this time I did. That demon player needed it, and the demon player got it. Double 6s, and the herald and the demonettes go storming into my knights. This is really bad news. I'll get to why in just a moment. In the meantime, we have a demonette dying for some reason. I have no idea why. There wasn't any difficult terrain. There wouldn't have been any spells that I cast, because I don't really cast any spells. The only thing that I can figure is maybe in the demonic magic phase, the demon player got a double 1, which means that unit would have had to take an instability test. And maybe they failed by 1. Now, the demon should have been taken from the rear rank. That probably wouldn't have made much of a difference. It would have lost 1 attack in the hand-to-hand combat phase. But again, I can't really figure out what we did here, but whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. Boy, but if he got that double 1, I was like, oh man, if that unit takes a bunch of damage or goes away or something like that, that could really save me from this position I got myself into, and then just takes 1 wound and just they continue on. That would have been a lot of hope and then a bit of disappointment. But anyway, it still might not be so bad. As I said, this is a tragic turn of events for me. First off, the demons and the heralds are probably going to kill those knights. They might not. The knights are strength 4. They got that 1-up armor save. If I either fight them off and stay in combat or even flee and then just run away and preserve my points that way, I could be okay. Or even killing off the herald. The herald is only toughness 3 with 2 wounds and a 5-up save. Maybe I can get lucky and it doesn't look like I've got, a horse and the knight would have to kill the heralds. It seems kind of unlikely, but there are some possibilities. The bad thing is that I didn't see this coming, so I don't have my swordsman positioned to countercharge. So really, in my turn, there's not going to be any support coming from my more powerful units over on the other side, which is too bad. So I'm thinking of all these ways that things could kind of shift back in my favor. Maybe the situation can be salvaged. We go to the hand-to-hand combat phase, and they're immediately dashed. My dumb knights go and fail every armor save that they could be asked to take. They just immediately all get cut down, and the demon player picks up those points with no questions asked. You stupid knights. And that is the end of the game. Well, I was feeling really good about how everything was going. Everything was shaping up really nicely. I lost the cannon in the free company, but I was sweeping up all the support units on the other side. We each took a monster. The demonettes really took some serious hits killing off that Hydra. But then I blew it. I gave him that double 6 charge. He took it. He took the opportunity. It paid off. Well, lesson learned. I'm not going to do that again. Except I almost certainly have done that again. But I only have myself to blame. Still, in the end, it was a draw. So neither of us got more than 100 victory points than the other. And Empire against Demons? You can't really complain. I will take that. Fun game. Thanks for watching. We'll move on to the second game in round 4. We're nearing the end of this campaign. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them below, and I will see you on the next one.